Hello, everybody, and welcome to the I Am 1-2 podcast with your host, Christopher Cohn. With me, as always, is my co-producer, my co-pilot, and my good friend, Dan the Man, in the studio. Hello, Dan. How's it going today?
Going well today. Hello, everyone out there.
Hello, everyone out there. So welcome to the podcast. If it's your first time with us, we are an all things recovery podcast. Recovery is going back to reclaim that which has been lost, and we have no idea how much we have lost by living in this sick world and being around these other sick human beings, putting their stuff in us left and right, and who knows who we are after all that happens to us. So recovering is about going back and finding out, how did I get here? What the hell happened to me? And where can I go from here to have a better life? And hopefully if you're with us, you'll get some tools to help you along on that journey. All right, so we had a great experience recently I wanted to share before we get started. Dan and I got a chance to go see my good friend Buddy Guy in concert. Buddy Guy is a fabulous, extraordinary legend of the blues. And I came into contact with him in the early 80s when I was getting sober, and I got deep in the blues and jazz and really expanded my musical horizons as I was growing up. Music has been such an important part of my recovery. We'll probably talk about that in a whole another podcast. And had the opportunity to see him many times. And one time was in a very small club, almost like a Roadhouse type place from the movie, where it was in Joplin, outside Joplin, Missouri. I didn't know if I was going to get killed going there. But I had the opportunity where he was throwing his guitar picks out at the end of the show, and he actually leaned over and handed one just to me with that big old smile of his. And I was like, ah. But, you know, he's doing his farewell tour, and he's 82 years old, and you have that fear when you're going in there. Is he going to be okay? Is this going to be a sad experience? Does he still have the chops? And I'm here to report the man is extraordinarily, miraculously amazing. Still has the guitar chops, but even what impressed me more was his vocal ability to just shout these things out and sing these top notes, and you're just like, oh, whoa, I wish I had that lung capacity even at my age. So if you get a chance to see it, please don't miss it. It's the end of an era. I don't know how many of the blues legends are left, but not many. And if you get a chance to see him, highly recommend it. Biggest juice of the night for me was my chance to take my nephew, who actually just got a scholarship for music. He plays the drums to the University of Kentucky. And I said, you need to go see a real bluesman. I mean, the real deal. None of this, halfway watered down music stuff. And he was blown away. I really didn't know how he'd take it, and he was just so amazed, and I could tell at the end how he was amazed. He got in the line to get a signed poster for his dorm room, and I was like, got him. He totally had a great time. And, of course, I got to have my good friend Dan with us along. Did you have a good time seeing Buddy the other night?
Yeah, I really did. It was really, really good. You know, we went on my 50th birthday there 5 years ago, but it was an outdoor in the hot and all that, and he just, I don't think he was able to shine the way he was inside that theater that we went to the other night. He was so good that at times I was watching him and thinking, was he lip syncing? And was he guitar syncing? Because he does not move much to make all that sound come out of that guitar. And I'm like watching his other guitarist over in the corner going, is he really playing that? And this guy's just, like guitar syncing. And no, it didn't take me long to see that was really him, and I was just blown away. It was a really good show. It touched me so much I went in a rabbit hole with him. You know, I read his autobiography right after that, and dug around in some of those old blues guys, and saw how his connections with Muddy Waters and Howlin' Wolf and all that. And he is the last survivor of the true, real deal blues guys.
Definitely the Chicago blues, as far as I know. But it's an era, and it's sad. I mean, being an alcoholic, I go down that rabbit hole of the kids don't even know. Nobody, all the jazz hounds, all the even the rock gods are dying off. But they're a little more commercial. And the kids don't know the origins of their music. And it's so technologically dominated today, you're not getting the same effect. Yeah. The way he could twist one note as he was singing that song about skin color, just like hit your heart, dude. Hit your freaking heart. Mm-hmm. And you're right, the lack of effort to just go, and you're like, did he move his hand?
Yeah. It doesn't look like he's playing, and it doesn't really look like he's singing, but that voice and that music and that guitar comes out. And he is. It's not that he's not active. He's active as all get out for 88 or whatever he is. But he just he doesn't have to burn a lot of energy to make that beautiful sound, that beautiful music.
Which feeds into the addiction topic, that he has trained his hand, that his brain is on automatic pilot to make that chord, or to make that run, that riff. Again, go out and see live music. That's my thing. Support your bands, and there's nothing better in sobriety than going and dancing and screaming and hooting and hollering, and you'll get to a place with your steps where you won't care that people are looking at you. It's totally freeing. I always make the argument that even when I was using, I still had that paranoia. Don't look like you're having too much fun, because you will draw the eyes of a cop or somebody that's going to bust you, kick you out because you're having too much fun. Now you don't care. I'm sober. I got nothing to be ashamed of. So, again, that's my little cry. It's still summer, right? At least it's 100 degrees here. So get out and enjoy some shows before we have to go inward if you live in one of those states where it gets colder. All right. Today's topic is going to be hopefully very helpful to you. Like we say, we like to vary topics, some on straight addiction stuff and some on straight just life tools to use. And one of the most valuable tools for me in my journey of recovery, and again, welcome. This is a podcast about how to change your life for the better and align your trajectory with who you truly are inside by first getting rid of all these false fronts and false walls and false selves that we put up because society told us we had to be this way or be that way, or your family or whatever programming you went through. Most people walking around out there don't even know who they are. And this topic today speaks directly to that, because a lot of people feel like they won't even be able to do this tool because their old programming will be fighting them on it. So we'll talk a little bit about that. So got a little frog in my throat there. So the topic today is about going off the clock. And I chose those words carefully because I did not want to say clocking out. When we were, maybe your thing is food, maybe your thing is sex, whatever it is, when we're medicating with some sort of dopamine spike inciting substance, that is clocking out. You're not present, you're not there, you're just sort of out of it. And that's not what we're talking about today. Going off the clock means, do you ever take any time in your entire week to just turn off all of the things that are calling you that you have to get done, all of the things that are putting you on a schedule, and specifically having to be aware of what time it is because I have to get to this appointment by 1:30. We live by this terrible, terrible tyrant called time that does not even exist in the universe. Talk to the quantum physicists, talk to the cosmologists. Time is a man-made construct. It does not exist. The seasons, fall, winter, spring, that we call them, the months of the year, December, February, these are man-made constructs that don't even exist. Yet our entire life is structured, particularly in Western society, on being on the clock. I'm wearing a freaking watch, for God's sakes. I don't mind that. I'd actually rather look at my watch than look at my phone, because I try to leave my phone as much as possible, leave it alone. But do you ever take time in your week to just check your little time, take your little pay sheet, put in the clock thing? When I worked in the factory, we had to do that, and just do whatever feels right next, and not have to be like, oh, I need to be here somewhere, and I got that pressure on me, and I got to get cleaned up and get going. So much of our life is lived like that schedule. And I feel like we're missing a full life because of it. Now, where's the origins of this for me? When I first got sober, for some reason, Sunday became my day of rest. There was something that resonated. I'm not a Bible guy, believe me, if you've heard the Spirituality podcast. I mean, I like it today. I think it's an extremely valuable book of wisdom, but I had a lot of baggage with it back in the day. But that old phrase, on the seventh day he rested. And there used to be a time in history where people would abide by that, actually. They would take Sunday, and it would be the day of Sabbath, or whatever you want to call it, where you're not supposed to do that much. You're supposed to just relax and regroup and heal yourself and get your energies renewed, okay? But we've gotten to this 24-hour society, and that's really the cause of most of our stress in Western society, is when we electrified everything, and that constant hum of the electricity, that now we can have a Walmart that's open 24 hours. We have fast food that's 24 hours. And life was not meant to be like that. We have these circadian rhythms where we're supposed to be asleep at times. We're supposed to be up and down with the sun, just naturally, not because the alarm clock goes off. But again, think about this over the next week, and as you're pondering this podcast in general, how many times we're watching the clock and keeping on a schedule. And I love nothing more today than to go off schedule, to clock out. That is my favorite thing in the whole damn world. And I make sure I do it as a dedicated practice once a week, which is usually on my Sunday. But in my early recovery, Sunday was my day where I didn't have anything going on. I didn't have to go to a meeting. And I would just take it easy. And I'm going to walk you through what something like that would look like so you can figure that out. Before we get to that, though, please know that you will have your baggage and your historical training that will fight against you not doing enough. There is this very bizarre training that I got as a male, specifically in Western society, that my worth was based on what I do and what I got done. And if you didn't get it enough done, you were called lazy, you were called a waste of space, or you were called not earning your keep. Ever heard that one? And so there's actually a term for that my friend Dan turned me on to, that he learned from a podcast, and I'll let him go in depth on it when he speaks. But it's this thing called productivity debt. It's this idea that I'm waking up in the morning and I'm already behind the 8 ball and I'm not doing enough to justify my existence, which is silly, right? When you present it, people go, well, that doesn't make any sense. You belong to be here just by being alive. You're here. But no, it's the sense that I have things I need to get done so that I can click them off my list and I can justify my meal tonight and that I earned my keep. And it's this really strange schedule we make for ourselves. It's artificial. It doesn't exist. And we're causing ourselves much more anxiety and stress than is necessary. My old friend, Dr. Burns Brady, who was my sponsor, I've maybe told the story before, but he's at the meeting one night and he's complaining about how busy and stressed out he is. And one of his sponsees leaned forward and said, "Excuse me, doctor, who makes out your schedule?" And the guy knew full well, the guy's a doctor. You don't tell doctors what their schedule are. They tell you what their schedule is. If you work in my hospital, you understand that joke. So he has that ability to change that. He has that ability to look at that and say, maybe I'm doing that to myself. So that's the idea, though, is your baggage will fight you that, well, what are you doing then? Why are you sleeping in? You know, lazy people sleep in. You need to get up. You need to get up and do something. And it's really interesting. There's another phenomenon I notice happens, and I don't think it's going to happen to me. I'm a night owl. I definitely have my grandmother's genes on this. She would stay up till 4 or 5 in the morning, and my mother used to rail at her, and I'd be like, it's just the way she's wired. Leave her alone if she sleeps until noon. She's fine. She's happy. But no, that's not acceptable. She must get up. She must be up. And I was like, that's... So, but there's this thing about old people that they get up at the crack of dawn, right? Now, not all of them, but I'm just saying, just look around and notice. And I sometimes wonder if that's a fear of mortality, if that's a fear of their encroaching, death, oh, I want to make sure I don't miss it. I got to be awake at the crack of dawn, get busy, get going. I mean, this productivity debt is so funny at times. Sometimes you wonder what people are running away from because they're so busy. I had these neighbors in Minnesota that were hardened, hardcore Minnesotans, and there was a blizzard one time. I'm literally looking out the window, and all I see is white. And they were retired, so they don't have to go anywhere. But literally, I suddenly see their car backing out of the driveway as much as it could to get out in the snow. And they're on their way to Dunkin' Donuts to do their routine that they do with coffee and whatever every day. And I'm just like, why? You don't have to go out. And it was actually on the news, they're telling people not to go out, but there was something about their programming. This is what we do. We got to do this. So I'm saying that up front because it will be challenging to you, that productivity debt, feeling like you've got to be doing something to justify your worth. And just be careful about that programming in general, that my worth is tied to what I get done. That's not true. You're not a human doing, you're a human being. Okay? So be careful about that when you're just starting out. One of my favorite stories I heard from a speaker one time is, this nurse was working double shifts for like 10 days in a row, and she was absolutely exhausted, and she finally got a day off, and she wanted nothing more to do that day than to just lay back, eat bonbons, lay on the couch, and watch Netflix. She had nothing planned but rest. Here's what happened. The phone rings. It's her mother. She answers the phone. Mom says, "Hey, honey, what are you doing?" And the woman found herself making things up that she was doing because she couldn't tell her mother straight up, I'm just laying on my ass doing nothing. It's that programming that I have to justify my existence. And this woman, she was a speaker. She was sober 10 plus years. And she was astonished. Why am I lying? I don't have any reason to lie. I've earned this. I've worked my butt off. But there was something about her past, her upbringing, and especially with her mother triggering it, that she felt like she had to make up some story to justify that her day was worthwhile. But I'm here to present to you that going off the clock can be very worthwhile. There's gifts that come from that. So I'll explain that in a second. Here's another dynamic that will happen to you, and especially for addicts and alcoholics. We are all or nothing people. And a lot of times we'll get up and we'll have this list of all these things we want to get done that day. It might be written down or it might be mental, but I'm telling you that list is severe. We will stick to it because, God darn it, I've got to get this thing done. And if I don't get this thing and get this here and do this, it's the end of me. And the problem with that is when you put yourself on that time schedule, you're so focused on doing the next task, you're not enjoying the process of life that you're currently in. All right, I'm so focused that I've got to get there. God forbid somebody should get in my way, and suddenly I'm yelling at them in traffic because I got to get to the cleaners before they close. And God forbid I don't get one thing on my list that's not done. There's something about addicts and alcoholics that will put that unnecessary pressure on themselves that I've got to get these things done. And when I have a patient in group that's doing that, I'm like, whoa, challenge that. Whose voice is in your head? Mom, dad, family, whatever, that told you you have to be on this hectic schedule and make sure that everything's done. Are you going to get punished? Are they going to cane you tonight because you didn't get one thing on your list done? But there are people who literally cannot sleep unless they've got that last thing off the list checked off. And part of recovery is learning, for any other way to put it, to be less anal about our existence and to just go with the flow and be in the current of life. Stop pushing so damn much, all right? But yeah, be careful about these lists of things we have to get done. Like my good friend the doctor, we do it to ourselves. All right, so I told you I was going to explain what this looks like. I need a little sip of water to wet my whistle for that. So, excuse me. So what you want to do when you're going off the clock is put the phone away first. It's going to be your most major distraction. Now, sorry. We had another podcast about what is your passion. This is different than setting that time for me time where you're going to pursue your passion. Going off the clock means I'm going to wake up when I wake up. I'm not going to set the alarm. I'm going to allow myself to just linger in bed if that's what I want to do. Almost everybody that's listening has probably been in a relationship that when you're in that new period and you guys are new to each other sexually and you've got a Sunday and you find yourself staying in bed and just fooling around all day, and then maybe you get up and eat something and it's wonderful. It's like being on vacation. That's the feeling you're looking for, is that feeling of complete, no schedule, no commitments. I'm going to do whatever just feels next right. I'm going to putter through my day. Maybe I'll go over here and do this. Maybe I'll go over and do that. So I'm laying in my bed. I'm laying in there as long as I want to. I finally get up, stretch. I decide, okay, I'm going to have something to eat. So maybe make myself something to eat. Or I might decide to go out to eat brunch. But I didn't make those plans ahead of time. I'm just going to go by the seat of my pants about what feels next right. Or right next. And then maybe we're going to go to the park and just hang out and lay in the grass for a while. Or maybe we're going to decide to go to the museum. But we didn't have a schedule. It's not planned. Oh, we got to meet Betty and Tom at the diner at this time. No, stop. Now, what this does is it recreates that whole environment that we all have experienced when we're on vacation. You know that wonderful sense of vacation where you've got no obligations and you can either decide to go see the tourist thing or you can actually decide to lay in bed and screw your brains out that day. Being on honeymoon, you can do whatever you want. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. It's a place of absolute peace and being fully alive and not letting any external thing control you. Are you doing something? Maybe. Are you not doing something? Yeah, that's okay too. And you don't have to justify it to anybody. Somebody said, what'd you do yesterday? You know what? I laid around and took it easy. And they always look at you like, I've got a physical therapist right now who's younger and has this idea, because she's in her 20s, I think, that she's got to be out doing something. You got to be, what's your plans this weekend? What are you going to do this weekend? Yeah, and it's always like, stop scheduling me up. I'll figure out my own schedule when I get there. I've got a relative that if I'm going to do something with them, they start hitting me up weeks ahead of time. What movie you want to see? Where are we going to go? And I'm like, oh my God, I don't even know what's going to be out by then. And again, it's creating that pressure. It's creating that stress of expectation. I got to be here. I got to do this. And that is not off the clock. Off the clock is I'm not checking what time it is. I have set aside this afternoon to just float. I'm just going to float with this and see what I want to do. And it's wonderful. I will tell you, the two things I've gotten from it the most is I don't need vacations as much because I have a vacation every week. Literally, I have a vacation from life where I'm just completely relaxed. And I'm very defiant about letting things interfere with that. Now, there are times where life intrudes. I think my old sponsor's funeral ended up on a Sunday. And I was like, well, I'm not missing that. Okay. So we go. But after that, I'm still doing my unplugged time. The main thing it's done for me is it's not made me feel as resentful about my job or my other commitments when I show up for work on Monday. How many people in your factory or at your workplace come in with that scowl on their face and they're like, it's Monday, right? You want to know why? Because they didn't have any of this time just to themselves. They allowed themselves to be overscheduled over their weekend. They didn't take any time just to be lazy and lay about and just be alive and just enjoy the process of enjoying this day. You know what? If I die, God forbid, tonight, I don't want to be thinking, I spent my whole last day being very productive and I got all this stuff done, or I spent my last day really enjoying my life, the process of just being. And I will tell you, I float, say, what are you going to do? I don't know. I might play a video game. I might go out. I might do this. I'm just going to go by the seat of my pants, man. And I'm not looking at the clock. That's another temptation, because as your time, let's say you've got till 6. I've made it so I used to get all my chores done on a Saturday, so I had nothing to do on Sunday. But Saturdays have become a writing day for me, so I'll do my chores later on Sunday. So let's say I've got from 10 till 5, okay? And but I try really hard not to look at the clock for when the 5 is coming, because again, it takes you out of that mode where you're just being in that just fully alive mode. I really feel like this is a tool that people don't know about, and that if we had it, I think people would be generally happier. There are studies about countries like Sweden and Norway where their happiness meters excel way beyond what we have in the United States. And they do know this art of being able to just be with family. What are we doing this? You remember that when you were a kid? We used to go see relatives, and we would just hang out. The kids would play. Parents and adults would sit around drinking coffee and eat cake, and they just sit in the backyard. They're just not on the clock. And we've lost that. We've got way too many tasks, way too many duties. And for what? I got this Walmart thing. I'm glad I went and got this, but I'm not happy when I go to work on Monday. So I really want to encourage y'all to do that. And as a sponsor, I have found this to be a great source of fun and a great gift to be able to give to my sponsees. I love to see them start to be lazy, for lack of a better term. I get these sponsees that feel like they have to get up at the crack of dawn, and then they'll say, I slept until 9 and I feel horrible. And I'm like, good. I'm glad you did that. Did the heavens part and God struck you down with a lightning bolt because you weren't up at 7? No, of course not. But that's this programming. And or it might be just training because you used to get up at 7 for your job for many years. Challenge it just for once a week. That's what today's goal is. Once a week, I'm going to just pull back, clock out, not clock out, go off the clock. And I'm going to just float. Maybe if you have kids, let them guide you. Just look at them and say, you want to go to the park? And then let them say, I want to go to swings. I want to go over here. Let's throw the ball. Okay. That's how they live. That's their entire life, is moment to moment. I'm just asking you to do it once a week. And I got to tell you, it's an art. It's something that's hard. You got to practice at it. But once you get good at it, I defend it, man. Ain't nobody messing with my Sundays. And I take that time to heal. And I really believe, not only am I renewed and refreshed and relaxed after all that, but it has saved me as a chemical dependency counselor to have that tool. My support group, My ability to vent with them is a killer tool, but even more so, or almost more than that, to unplug and not think about all that crap. I'm dealing with the darkest of the dark on a daily basis. This is the darkest side of man, active addiction, right? And just the other day, I received a patient who was in the field and they relapsed. And I explained to them, we have one of the highest relapse rates of any profession. We're right up there with cops and paramedics and other first responders because we're exposed to that negative. And I just need to unplug, man. I don't want to hear about the news. I don't want to hear about nothing. I just need to be. And because I take that healing time for myself on Sundays, I've been in this field 21, 22 years. Wow, go figure how'd that happen. It's insane to me. I can't even believe it. But I know for a fact that working all of my recovery tools has made that work. So if you have a stressful job, if you have a job you hate, try this tool. See if you go in there and you don't mind it as much. It can't hurt. And again, it's actually fun. It's the best part of my week. I love it. I look forward to it every week. You know, like I said, Saturday I'm on my writing schedule and I might do some chores and I got to work out and whatever, but not on Sunday, man. Sunday's my day. There's an old blues song by Art Blakey called Sundays, and it's not even the lyrics, but I always sing it, Sundays, my one and only day, Sundays. It's just my day. I don't know why. But again, try to have some fun and let your little kid out with this. But I want to let Dan get in here and talk about this productivity debt, because he was the one that brought that terminology to me, and I thought it was fascinating, because I do believe in America we're really programmed with that idea of earning your keep.
Yeah, you know, this it hit me. I get a number of emails from various people. This one particular come from a podcaster named Chris Williamson, and he was quoting somebody else named Oliver Berkman. And he even says here, apparently I struck a chord on Twitter the other day when I observed that many people, by which I meant me, seem to feel as if they start off each morning in a kind of productivity debt, which they must struggle to pay off throughout the day, in hopes of reaching a zero balance by the time evening comes. Few things feel more basic to my experience of adulthood than this vague sense that I'm falling behind, and I need to claw my way back up to some minimum standard of output. It's as if I need to justify my existence by staying, open quote, on top of things, close quote, in order to stave off some ill-defined catastrophe that might otherwise come crashing down upon my head. And I have suffered with that all my life, of just go, 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 and see how many things I can get done today, because who knows what's going to happen tomorrow, and ultimately just going to bed completely. Now I'm a lot better, a lot better, but I sure did. My life is still being run like that at some level, where I have these things I got to check off for the day, and I'm going like the hammers of hell, hoping to get ahead of it. And, you know, and like striving at this point, thinking that there's going to be this point a little while later, like let's just pretend like at 5 p.m. I'll get to quit for the day and I can relax, you know, but I don't do that. I keep on going until it's time to shut down for the night. And again, I don't run my days like that today. I do know how to slow down. I got up this morning at 9 o'clock with no alarm clock. That's just what time I woke up this morning. And I just piddled around the house until it was time for us to do the podcast. I did. I ran out. Some friends of mine have a lunch on, AA friends of mine have lunch on Thursday to someplace here in New Albany. So I jumped over there and had lunch with some boys. Yeah. And just really didn't do much today. So I know how to do it, and I got to watch for those windows. I could have also found a lot of shit to do today if I wanted to, but I chose not to do that today. But that productivity debt, that trying to reach, you know, to try and get some like I like the way he says, like to arrive at some zero balance by the end of the day. It's impossible.
Well, there's this thing too that's weird. I find that by practicing this going off the clock stuff, I'm more able to stay on top of things. I mean, I will observe my coworkers. They're equal therapists. They have their own group of crazies, and they're losing their shit over something small, or some crisis happens and they're not able to stay calm. And I'm like, I really believe, because I took that moment to recharge my battery, that now I've got a reserve inside that they are not able to call upon. And so I'm actually more productive for having taken the time. Now, I think what's bizarre is that we wait till, typically for people, twice a year, if they only have 2 weeks of vacation, and then they get a chance to relax for 2 weeks out of every year. I'm like, that just seems insane to me.
And you know,
if I'm an adult, I have power over my own schedule. Why can't I recharge once a week?
Yep. And you know, people don't even do that on vacations anymore.
No, we got to schedule. We got to do this.
And they're busy when they come home from vacation. They need a vacation to get over vacation. Nobody.
That makes no sense to me. I mean, I like the idea of going and doing some things, but if you're at Walt Disney World and you're just running here and there from ride to ride and doing all that, it's like, dude, just sit at the beach, just relax for a second. Why? But our 24-hour society has made all of us sick for the sake of convenience.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep.
I listen to speakers that talk about not patronizing. I don't. If a store is open on Christmas, I mean, look, if you need your gallon of milk, whatever, and Scott Lee says, thank you for being open, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I get that. But in general, this trend lately that we're going to be open on Thanksgiving early so you get to Black Friday, don't patronize them, man. Let them know there should be some boundaries around. Just let me be. I don't have to consume on every day.
Yep. Used to be you'd be moving from going to Grandma's house on Christmas Day, and everything would be closed. And now you go to Grandma's on Christmas Day, and it doesn't look like it looks like any other Monday or whatever. The convenience stores are open, the grocery stores are open. Everything just looks plain. That's a good point. We have somebody once linked it to about the time cable TV come on, where we had TV 24 hours a day. Was like the very beginning of us starting our 24-hour life cycle.
Mm-hmm. And that instant news feed, always breaking news, being too aware of what everything's happening in the world. But there is a discipline to this. And, you know, when you told me the other day you slept until 11, I just consider these victories. I'm just like,
oh, yeah.
Victory.
You taught me to do that.
He's relaxing a little bit.
And I'll tell you, you know, if I can go into that way, because I do it. You said that, you know, there was a time in my life I could not allow my dad to see me not do anything. You know, and it carried over. Like when I moved out and I was on my own, I could, you know, he wasn't with me. But there was an adjustment period when he moved in here where that old training, you know, programming wanted to raise itself back up again. And, you know, I couldn't just kick back and sit on the bed. And if he saw me, I'd have some kind of weird feeling that I was wasting time. Now, Dad didn't do any of that to me on purpose.
Yeah.
There was nothing that he did that to make me feel that way. He didn't do it. I did that. But I carried it, that productivity thing, man. I need to be seen as my self-worth was attached to how busy I was.
Mm-hmm. And when I putter around, it's hard because when we talk about being completely off the clock, like, you know, I'll take these long weekends rather than a vacation, and I still want to do some writing, right? So I'll have it in my mind, okay, you're going to write around 3, and I'm like, stop it. You'll write when you write. Just write when you feel like it. That's the idea of being off the clock, is I'm going to just flow. Stop thinking ahead. Stop expecting, you know, we have to be here, and we have to do this. And you know what else happens that's fun? When you're going out, say you decide to go out for brunch, when you're in the flow, sometimes there's a table that opens up right for you, and you don't have to stand in line like everybody else does. I'm telling you, there is a way to lower your own agenda so that life can play some part and guide you, and you get that higher power in there, and suddenly everything's just working out that day, you know?
Yep. You know, the Colorado trip coming up is beginning to get like overly scheduled, in my opinion. I just want to go up there and go with the flow. I don't want to have anything like calendar oriented. I want to wake up today and figure out what I'm going to do today. Wake up tomorrow and figure out what I'm going to do.
Maybe that's your role, is to teach them that.
Maybe.
Because I agree, there's that macho, we're going to do this, we're going to get this. And last night they were talking about getting a bear. You know, I need to get a bear, we're going to get a bear, I can feel it, it's a bear. I'm just like, expectations, man. Be careful about that stuff.
Yeah.
You guys are going on an adventure, and you don't know what could present itself if y'all would just let go and have no schedule.
That is the way I'm moving through it.
That's awesome. I can't wait to hear the difference between your experience and theirs. There's going to be a hungry newcomer or somebody there that sees what you're doing and want to jump on that vibe. I guarantee it. So again, your family will challenge you. What are you doing? You know, what do you mean you can't do anything that day? Hey, man, that's my boundary. That is my day. I got to recharge. Again, I've got a perfect excuse, if you want to call it that I have to recharge before I go back to the mental hospital. And if I don't, I'm going to be in there. That's what I tell them. But they'll still say, I understand, it's your birthday. Why can't we do it that day? But because my Sundays are sacred. I literally defend that as much as I can. I'm flexible if it's major, but otherwise do not toy with me. There's no reason we can't do it on Saturday, and you're not going to screw up my Sunday. That's just me, and it's worked really well. So I hope that's helpful to people out there. And please send us some comments and try these tools and see how it goes for you. But, oh, man, that last long weekend I took was just great. And everybody's like, what'd you do? What'd you do? I was like, not really nothing. I mean, I did things, but it's not like, oh, I went here and I climbed this and I did that. No, I just enjoyed life. And I still got a buzz from it. I still feel good.
Yep.
So, and again, why do we bring this up particularly too for addicts and alcoholics? Because we are overscheduled and we're doing it to ourselves. We put way too much on our plate. We have way more expectations of ourselves than anybody else has of us. We're also more hypercritical of ourselves than anybody could ever be. You could have a hanging judge and he could say bad things about you, but not as bad as your own mind is saying about yourself. So challenge it. Wonder where you got that stuff. What standard are you trying to live up to? And who put that idea in your head that what you do is your worth? It's not. All right. Anything else to add to that, Dan?
Yeah, I will thank you for teaching me that and taking it easy at times and learning to train myself to. And like today, I love to nap. I don't really ever take a whole day necessarily. Well, sometimes when I go to Fargo, I'll go down there and really not do anything. On my birthday the other day, I went down there and I just laid on the raft and spun around in circles in the pond, and took it easy all day long.
Tell me about that experience. That sounded wonderful.
There was a time that I wouldn't been able to do that. We're low on firewood, and there's grass, there's fields that need to be mowed. There's always something that needs to be done, and I have to tell myself no. Because I'll grab a chainsaw real quick and go ahead and cut that up real quick, and I tell myself, no, Dan, you're not doing that today. You're not working today. You're chilling out. And I packed up a bag of ice and some bottles of water and my goodie bag and my fishing pole, my fly rod and swimming trunks and a towel. And my cousin and uncle was like, why don't you take the mule? And I was like, I just want to walk. I just wanted to walk over there. I didn't want to take the vehicle. It feels like that's got also some energy in it. So I just strolled over there and did what I wanted to for a little bit. Fish for a little bit, chill out, sit on the bank, just sit there. I started messing around with a harmonica again. So I sit there and I play around with my harmonica. And then I went out in the pond, and my neighbor leaves rafts down there, and they're great. She goes and uses our pond down there, and I pulled one out of a pile, and it was the perfect one, man. It just held you just exactly perfect, man. You get in that pond and just, that's all I want. I had one goal. I didn't want to bounce against the bank. I wanted to stay. So the only thing I really paid attention to, besides the big morphing of those, I think they call them cumulus clouds, the big cotton candy white puffball clouds, and I could watch them roll and transform and change shape and pull apart, and just watch them. It's almost like you wouldn't see that if you didn't just stand there and watch it for a long time. You don't see those clouds change, and it was kind of trippy, just laying out there completely relaxed with not a thing on my mind, floating around in the water. And I think I was out there for like 3 hours. I was glad I put some suntan lotion on, or I'd have been burnt to a crisp. Now I got a nice tan for the first time in years.
Why is that okay to do? If I dropped acid, nobody would look twice and say, well, of course, you're tripping on the clouds. That's cool, man.
Yeah.
But if I do that in sobriety, I'm being lazy, right?
Yeah, right. Yep.
It's odd.
I just don't, I'm not in the rat race anymore. What did somebody else says? The problem with the rat race is you're still a rat. and I just don't participate in that. I don't work that way anymore. I tell people I'm not fast. I work at my own pace. I'm not going to get myself into this. It was a piece of, I don't know how much it had to do with my drinking and how much it was tied together, but I know my stress levels and my productivity like that was tied to my using at the same time, that I'd tell myself that I needed a drink because look at everything I've been doing all day. And then and it was a vicious cycle of busy, drunk, busy, drunk, busy, drunk, busy, drunk. And man, I like this slower pace. Just like you said, go with the flow of the day. There's nothing going to happen that's going to be an emergency. Nothing needs to be taken care of today. If something slips through the cracks, no big deal. I don't even get upset. I missed a damn bill the other day. Because I just wasn't paying that much attention, and I don't get excited about it. It'll cost me a couple bucks to pay it late, but no big deal.
No big deal. And we always think it's got to be this big bang boom kind of thing. But if I were to ask you to try and remember all that busy, drunk for standout moments versus
you miss everything.
Versus laying on that raft and looking at the clouds, and that's something you will remember that maybe on your deathbed that that was really cool. I was really just vibing with nature, man.
Yeah, I just I busy myself right out of having a life. I didn't have a life. I didn't take time to notice anything. It was too much checking off the box, these invisible boxes of all this stuff that I thought I needed to be doing.
What I think about is these guys that sit outside on the bench outside the old country store, and they just sit there whittling wood or just chewing tobacco and just looking at you. And that always made me a little nervous because I always felt like they were going to say something to you or something, because who's this city slicker? What the fuck? And they aren't. They're just sitting there chilling. But they got something to teach us, man. They're just alive. They're just there. And again, older people who are retired, they really get into that vibe. They'll go sit down by the seashore or sit in the park and just enjoy the day, man.
Yeah, we got some. We've been going down to Fargo on Saturdays lately, and one thing is the Marengo store down there has chicken gizzards on the week, chicken gizzards and livers on the weekend, on Saturday, and we stop in there, and there's always a couple of those old guys sitting out there on the bench on the way in. It's I get a kick out of them. They're just not, they're just hanging out doing nothing.
I know there was one
people
there,
watching, I guess.
When I came to the retreat, there was one guy out there, just one, and I was like, there you go. I liked it.
Yeah.
So try this little tool to just go off the clock and just, try to just be. Don't worry about a schedule. The idea is to, again, because you'll forget, just putter. Just do whatever feels right. I'm going to go over in this room. I might do this, or maybe I feel like going outside, or maybe I just feel like, I don't want to go outside. Let's do this. Okay, I'll do this. But when you're done, I can't think of anything more refreshing. I did want to touch on, I'm so glad I remembered this. You have, sir, have brought the nap thing more into my life. And I'm going to tell you where my productivity debt existed, is I felt like a meditation had to be meditation. If you fell asleep, it was cheating. Now, there's no master in the world who will tell you that. Most of the top masters I've encountered would say that's the height of relaxation. So that was a good meditation. You fell asleep. And it's never fully asleep. My meditations are in and out, while you're napping a little, whatever. And, I have really incorporated that before I start writing. It helps center me. Yeah. Helps bring my energies down to focus on what I want to get done. But I could never do that before. I've only really started doing that in the past couple of years since you've been doing it. And, I just felt like I had to be in the meditation. You're in a meditation. You're not supposed to cheating to sleep. And, again, there's that productivity debt, like you're doing it wrong or something.
Yeah. I fully count my, and then I take some sort of inventory of if I'm working my program, and I do think it's important to meditate, and I count my naps as that time. It is for me. It's absolutely no different. I'm turning off for a few minutes and going to Nowhereville.
Recharge the batteries.
Yep. And it works so good, man. I bet I take a nap 5 days a week.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're 20 minutes, 30 minutes, that kind of thing. You have a little window of time between one thing and another thing and chill for a few minutes.
I'm a straight 40. That seems to be my window. It's not really fully satisfying. Although I sometimes cheat, and after I let my legs down from being kicked up on the desk, and I still want to do a little 4 or 5 minutes just sitting there, because I just don't want to destroy it. It feels too comfortable.
It does feel too good, yeah. And then once in a while, after Charlie and I's work week last week, I come home on Friday and took a shower, and I laid down for a little chill, and the next thing you know, it was 2.5 hours later. But I had the time, and it didn't really matter. I was going down to the cabin at some point. I got there later, and I thought I was going to get there. No big deal.
So one last time, we used to live like this. We would live according to the dictates of nature and the day. If it was sunny, we get out and work. If it's cloudy and cold, we went inside. And artificial society and technology has eliminated a lot of those cues.
We used to sleep in the dark and awake in the day.
Mm-hmm. And every single one of my patients who talks about working at night, they have the hardest time staying sober. Hardest time staying sober.
Yep. People have health problems over that. It's a terrible thing that we do.
All righty. So great topic. I hope you all got something out of it. If you have some experience going off the clock and you have some joy or some juice that comes out of that, please hit us up on the comments at iam12recovery.org. That's iam12recovery@gmail.com. Our website will be coming in the future. iam12recovery@gmail.com. All right. Now we will transition to our question and answer period. This is the portion of the podcast where we let you, the listeners, send us your questions about anything having to do with your life. And we will give you our experience, strength, and hope. And I will bring some professionalism to it from my experience at the treatment center. And we want to give you these little legs up with any problem you might be struggling with in your life. So please send your questions to iam12recovery@gmail.com. All right, we're going to let our good friend Dan, we have 2 great questions today, and we're going to let Dan lead off the question session.
Hey, everybody. Hey, Christopher's been hogging up a whole question thing on me.
I know, I do that,
just
man.
Now, after this, how many, 20 episodes, we realized, hey, we could share this. Spread it around a little bit. So this question here says, how is AA/the 12 steps different than religion? How is religion different than AA/12 steps? I think they couldn't be any further. That is the biggest mistake. People come into 12-step recovery thinking that this is some kind of religion, and it's not. It's more of, I like it like Buddhism is really not a religion if you look at it. It's a philosophy. It's a way of doing life. And that 12 steps, ultimately, once you've done the work or doing the work, it's just a way to do life. It doesn't have any, because of a universal power source we talk about harnessing in it. That's probably the only connection, the only thing that it even has in common with religion is that we both subscribe to some sort of higher power one way or another. I'll tell you one way that it's different. Religion does not have a methodology to clean your house and to work out your stuff and to process your resentments and do amends and even forgiveness. What we do in our work is way deeper in forgiveness than what I've ever been taught in a church. It was just kind of like a thing to do. You were just supposed to do it. They never did tell you how to. They never give you any tips for it. The dogma of religion, that was one of the problems I had with it in the beginning. Is I looked at these different boxes, these different religions, and I was trying to figure out which one of them I should be a part of, because I did have a lingering draw to some kind of power source, some kind of higher power. I've had that all my life, and I fought it. And at certain times in my life, at other times I was snooping around to see, and the confusion I had about who was right because of these people do this and these people do that. We talked a little bit ago about the Sabbath thing. Some people still practice that from the Jewish standpoint, except for the Sabbath is actually on Saturday for them, and they take that day off then. So who's right? And I never could get to figuring out which box was right, so I just didn't do anything rather than select something wrong. So all the little rules and regulations that they have, and I guess some people could say we have etiquette in 12 steps. There's a certain way you're supposed to behave, but it's pretty loose. You're not supposed to beat up on the newcomer, but they still do it. Some clubs don't want you cussing at their meetings, and some don't care. But it's a good question. What do you think, Christopher?
With my baggage, I'm going to go out on a limb here. I believe that what the spirituality that is contained in the principles of the 12 steps is, first of all, universal. These are ancient teachings that have been with man since the beginning of time. And I believe that it carries and embodies the message that Jesus was teaching with his apostles when they first started. Just to use a mass media picture in the movie Jesus Christ Superstar, when they're sitting in the cave arguing that he should be spending the money on the poor and not on washing the whore's feet. And they're going back and forth and hashing it out, and it's real. That's personal growth. That's people being themselves. That's people being able to let down their guards and argue and get passionate. And Lordy, I was not able to do any of that in my church. It was sit down, shut up, and we're going to tell you what's up. And, if you have a different church, God bless you, that's not what I had. And, of course, it was the older days. We're talking the 60s. But before man got its handprints on it, before man had to mangle this stuff and organize it and make money to make sure it continues, it just got bastardized. It got ruined. If you look at our origins in AA from the Oxford groups came from this belief that they were practicing the original Christian message. Absolute love, absolute tolerance. When you all look about the media, for some people who claim themselves to be Christians today, do you see absolute love? Do you see absolute tolerance? And so these messages that were great principles got bastardized to fit into whatever brand they were saying they were selling you. So, this brand sells it this way, this brand sells it that way. And I think it gets ruined. So what I feel like we have as a difference is the ability to be who you are. I always felt like I had to dress up and cover up my dirt and cover up my sins to walk into a church. I felt like I was going to get found out and then brought up in front of the whole crowd and taken to task, possibly even whipped, because I was a bad dog. And I'm telling you, I have had patients who have been severely damaged by the religion they were brought up because somebody took a secret that was told in confidence to the pastor or whatever, and he outed them in front of the whole congregation. Yes, that's effed up with a capital F. So that has nothing to do with recovery. In recovery, we love the newcomer until they can love themselves. We show compassion for people that don't deserve compassion. We show care for the dirtiest, most disgusting, sometimes smelly, haven't had a bath in weeks people sitting in their own shit, and we're going to help pick that human wreckage up off the freaking sidewalk and help save their life. And that's pure Christianity, in my personal opinion. And I always go back to that movie, Religulous, with Bill Maher. I don't care what you think about him. It's a brilliant movie. And there's a scene before the Vatican with all this opulence and wealth on display. And this bishop is out there talking to him, and Bill Maher says, "I'm just wondering what you think about all this, or what would Jesus think about all this?" And the old crusty guy just speaks out of turn and says, "Jesus wouldn't have nothing to do with this. Jesus wouldn't be here. He'd be with the lepers. He'd be with the people who have AIDS. He'd be with the downtrodden, the gay, the people that dumb people don't like. That's where he'd be. He wouldn't have nothing to do with this." And to me, that is the beating heart of recovery. It couldn't be more different than night and day. We don't exclude, we include, we don't bar, we welcome, we are tolerant to a fault. The pure spirit of AA, I'm not saying that people don't screw that up because they're human, but that's what I was raised on, and that's what I fight for, and that's why I started groups. That my main mission in my home group for us to be represented was I want people to feel welcome and safe. And that is the highest compliment I will get from my patients when they come back and they say, "What did you think about the meeting?" "Oh man, they really seem to care. Everybody's so friendly and so nice. They're shaking my hand when I came in. They're hugging me. They're welcoming me. They got me a chip. They gave me a big book." Yeah, man. You found your way home. Welcome back. And I think we can have that back. That's my mission, to spread the 12 steps to everybody. So if you're new, don't get hung up on that God word that Bill used. There's a whole episode on that. Just look back several episodes when we talked about the God stuff. It makes us better people to help the world. And I was never a person that gave a F to really stick my neck out to do much for anybody. I wasn't trying to be a bad person. Anybody that looked at me back then would say, "Oh, I thought you were a nice guy." But I was still so selfish. And this program has changed me to be a better human being, to care about people that, again, don't really deserve much care. They're pretty hard to love. I sponsored a man who was a hitman for the Hells Angels. He killed people for a living, folks. And I love that man. I love that man as a fellow addict. And I don't think you'll find that in many churches. There are many, don't get me wrong. But the image we see in the news, this, I'll just say this extreme version, this fundamentalist version that speaks on hate, what Ralph Waldo Emerson, the poet, say? He says, what you're saying speaks so loud, I can't hear what you're saying. Or what you are speaks so loud, I can't hear what you're saying. And anytime I hear somebody start to come at me with Jesus and stuff, and I always listen for it, where's that bend in their voice, that little bit of hate, that little bit of friction, that little bit of And I'm like, that doesn't sound like love to me. I want nothing to do with it. Thank you very much. That's my answer.
Awesome. Yep. We let you be you. We let you find you. I don't see churches doing that. Like the one biggest thing I do see, I know a church in Louisville that is doing some down and dirty work. You know who's running that program?
An alcoholic.
People in recovery.
I love it.
They're down with the homeless, and they're trying to keep them fed and trying to keep them clothed and all that. And that program is being led up by people in recovery.
And I had a newcomer in my group say that he joined them one weekend, and he said, it's the best weekend I've had in my life for a long time.
Yep.
And I was like, hell yeah.
I got a sponsor that does it every weekend. Every single weekend he's down there doing that.
So awesome.
And it fills him. He talks about what it does for him to do that. And he welcomes other new guys to come help too. It's a service thing that he does. And
here's the simple proof in the pudding. Would any of those guys have been doing that when they were smoking or drinking or doing all that stuff?
Heck no.
No, of course not. So great question. Really appreciate that, because that's a common question that most people have coming in when they see all that God stuff. It does look like a religion, but furthest thing from it, I promise you. All right, second question for today. All right, this is a deep one, so stay with me. Please discuss the term spiritual awakening versus the terms spiritual psychosis. In my experience, the spiritual awakening is the most important, powerful experience of recovery. And it's not talked enough about in truthful terms around the 12 steps. A spiritual awakening occurs within people as the result of doing the 12 steps. And in many other ways, it is an awkward process. It's like having a new pair of glasses is just the beginning of it, and the pink clouds are just the beginning of it. If a sponsor doesn't know how to meet you emotionally when you tell them that you have discovered yourself and that they are God, okay, it changes the dynamic a bit. All right, I think I understand. I'll address that. I hesitate asking because I'm still immature emotionally, but growing like a weed and a flower. I like the flower part. All right. One thing to understand about a sponsor is that you can get crossed wires, because I find that when we're sick, we hear things certain ways, and maybe that's not what the sponsor meant. So I would always encourage everybody on just some basic tools. If you get twisted up about something somebody said to you in the program or in recovery or even your sponsor, please go back and clarify. Just go back and say, this is what I heard. Is that what you were saying? And probably 10 times out of 10, because it happens to me on a daily basis in the hospital, I'll get misquoted, or they'll say I said this, and I'm like, whoa, that's not what I said at all. But I understand that's what you heard. That is not what I said. So go back and clarify if you're getting your wires crossed about what they said about this situation with you emotionally or whatever. But there is another factor to that your sponsor is responsible for looking out for you. They have experience that you have not had yet. They see who falls and who stays sober. So their main goal is to help you avoid these pitfalls. And one of those pitfalls in the recovery is not the term spiritual psychosis, but it's the term spiritual intoxication. Bill talks extensively about that in the chapter to the family, when he says Dad might become so elated that he neglects his personal responsibilities with the family, or he wants to spend all of his time out there saving others and going to the hospital to sober up a guy and going to meetings, but he's not doing his family. He's not at home for them. He's not there for the kids. And that's kind of unfair, right? These people have supported us for all these years, and we're just going to disappear on them. However, it's like everything else in recovery. It's a balance. Bill says in the book, Dad might need to do this for a while, and it's better than him drinking. So we might have to be a little flexible about letting Dad have his head at it, have his steam at it, whatever Bill says. But there's also that side of it, like, whoa, you can't get so spiritually high that you're no earthly good. And I have had sponsees, particularly one that had bipolar, and it was a total trap for him when he would get so high spiritually. He would stay up for days, and he wouldn't show for work, and he'd be doing all this other stuff. And it's like, dude, you are not in the world. And that is what Jesus said, be in the world, but not of it. in the world, but not of it, because I have to be on the ground to help my fellows. If I come at them with that stuff like, oh, God is great and everybody's great, we're all beautiful, we're all made of the stardust, and I'm going at a guy in the gutter with that stuff, he's not going to listen to a word I said. And Bill Wilson had that experience in his recovery. He goes out to the Bowery and he's preaching at these drunks about everything's spiritual. I saw God in my hospital room, and they're all like, get away from me. Yeah, he said they were universally repulsed. You know what I envision in my head? You ever try to chase a magnet with another magnet? And Bill's running all over the Bowery trying to help these guys. God! And they're all like, God, shut up. Not very helpful, not very useful, not very effective. I have experienced with this particular fellow who had bipolar and other people who got spiritually too intoxicated, it's selfish. It's another way of getting high, and I'm not really helping anybody else by just me juicing. There's nothing wrong with being juicing and getting some juice or feeling juicy, but when it's to the point that I'm just too much and I'm not able to just be there if someone is in pain or someone needs me to be real, I'm not being very effective. So that's maybe what your sponsor was trying to warn you about, is that you have to be careful because the fall from that is very steep. I've seen people fall right into relapse and be in the gutter and lose everything because they got too spiritually high for their own good. So again, it's another high. Remember, we're always looking for highs. We're always looking for highs. We're always looking for highs. We don't like this world. I'll speak for myself. I don't like this world. It's too slow. People are stupid. They're doing dumb things. We have war. We have famine. We have dumbass shit, and I have to deal with it on a daily basis, and I don't want to be here. Does that ring true for anybody listening? That's why I look for the high. Let me get out of here and not feel this. So we got to be very careful with this stuff. Now, this term spiritual awakening is a phrase that I think applies to every human being throughout your entire life's journey. If you have ever looked at a particular topic or a thing a certain way your entire life, and you've been unbudging about it, you said, this is the way it is, this is all there is to it, and I'm never changing my mind. And then suddenly you go through an experience where your head gets spun around like a little top, and you're like going, whoa, I totally see this different. I never considered that. I think I was wrong. That's actually blah, blah, blah. That's called an awakening. That's what the steps are designed to do, is to challenge our matrix programming and have us have a new experience of things that we were so closed-minded and thought we knew everything about. And the term spiritual puts it on this plane like, oh, you're going to see God, you're going to float in the air and be in the light and not want to go back to earth. That's not real. I'm just going to tell you, that's artificial spirituality. Real spirituality results in change. This is how you know a person has had a genuine spiritual awakening, is when you are starting to do things for other people and to not just think about yourself and how good you feel. Okay? There's lots of spiritually high people out there, and they're no good to anybody. We just talked about these guys are out there feeding the homeless. I don't think they're down there going, they're down there giving them food and water. That's what matters, right? So be very careful about that, because it's common. It's going to happen to everybody in early recovery that you get your first taste of that juice and you will run like a dog with a bone in its mouth. But hopefully you have a sponsor to put a pace on you, because you'll run into a relapse. You will. It happens. But Bill talked about we need a more durable spirituality. I'll just say that and get Dan in here again. He had his experience in front of God, and he was trying to preach that shit. And everybody in AA, when we first started out, thought, well, Jesus, Bill, do I have to have that? Do I have to stand before God on the mountaintop with the wind blowing through me to have a spiritual awakening? And guess what happened to Bill? 6 months later, he's in Ohio. He wants a drink worse than ever. Guess what happened? Seeing God did not stop Bill from wanting a drink. Isn't that crazy? Really think about that. And he said, no, actually, we need this more educational variety, slow spiritual awakening, going through the steps, having these little awakenings along the way. That is more durable for the challenges of fighting addiction and fighting this world when it's going to trigger you. So, have you seen that in anybody, Dan, that got too spiritually high? They just turned you off, or you're just like, whoa.
Yeah, I've
dude.
had that experience, and and that's exactly what I do. The same thing that those guys in the Bowery are going to do too, and I had to practice my love and tolerance in that area, but I don't have any. I can't deal with them. I'm repulsed. I want to walk away and not have to converse with you because everything looks like a miracle, and it's just not grounded. It just gets. I don't know. I've wondered before, maybe if I'm missing something, it'll get me to question my spirituality. Like, am I not doing something right? Why am I not getting this all this magical stuff happening around me 24/7? But you do. I do. Your new guys will go through that, and they'll get to where they'll have that period where they'll be just God, spiritual, God. You said da da da. You were right. And I've never really had any of my guys that I had to actually rein in. Because it kind of leveled off a little bit, like the old bell curve where it peaked out, and then it come back down and leveled out to a point that was sensible. I do love that phrase, and it says I think I heard Burns say the thing about you don't get so spiritually high that you're no earthly good, and the Big Book thinks that we should keep our feet planted firmly on the ground and our head in the sky. And I try to balance that in my life too, because there was a period where I got all juiced up like that too, and it's fun when you've just like really detoxed and the stuff is out of you really, and you've worked the steps, and life is just beautiful again, and it's just it's hard not to be overjoyed and kind of take that a little bit far. But I know my more durable, more sensible approach is more attractive to the people I'm trying to help.
And if it's common and if it's a phase, please don't treat it like it's the destination. Getting to this state of elation all the time is not being human. I firmly believe that we are meant to have a human experience. We're spiritual beings encased in this skin, and I'm meant to have these goofy-ass experiences that nobody would call spiritual. Let me name one of them: having a colonoscopy. Having some stranger bend me over and put a 30-foot tube up my butt with a camera. What? Is that spiritual? I don't know, but I know it's human, and I know it's taught me some things, and that's our life. Our journey is to learn through being human and having these more grounded experiences. Now, there was a period in my life when I started going to that Key to Life church, and I was on fire, dude. I was like wanting to share with everybody because I was so excited. I hope I didn't leave any bad taste in too many people's mouth, and I don't think I was overbearing. But there's nothing wrong with having those days where you do feel high and you're totally enjoying it. But boy, if you try to stay there as the goal, you're going to fail. Your wings are going to get singed like Icarus trying to chase the sun, and you're going to fall to earth hard. I promise you that. So it's a great question, and I would really encourage you to quiz several people about it, because it helps to get different people's opinions on it. The term spiritual psychosis, that's more of a medical term, not even the spiritual part, but just psychosis means you're out of your mind. It means you're not in touch with reality. And like I said, my guy with bipolar, he would get pretty far out there, man. His mother's calling me worrying he's going to kill himself because he would come down from these highs. It's very unsafe. But it's temporary and it's normal and it's going to happen. Just hopefully you have a sponsor to ground you. Do not reject your sponsor because they rubbed you the wrong way or they made you mad. That might be your lifeline to recover after you fall. And that's all they're trying to do. They're just trying to make sure you don't run into trouble. They're not trying to jam up your high or whatever, something like. Although it can feel like that sometimes, right?
Yep, it can.
All right, great questions. I'll really appreciate it. And send us some feedback later to let us know what happened after you talk to your sponsor and maybe got other people's opinions. We'd love to hear about it. All right, another fantabulous episode for you guys. As we say at the end of every episode, please help us out. Like, subscribe, comment. All that helps us raise our analytics so we can spread this message to many, many, many more people. It's our mission here to spread recovery to the world, not just in AA, not just NA. I believe these tools were meant for support to help save mankind. And I want everybody to have experiences with them to be able to grow. So thank you for being with us. Come back and see us. We've got many more episodes planned, exciting stuff. April will be here in a couple of weeks. She's going to be a great guest. And we're going to close the podcast the same way we do with every other podcast, with the Serenity Prayer. You ready, Dan?
I'm ready.
All right. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Just for today. Keep coming back. It works if you work it. You die if you don't. Woo! We love you. Take care of yourselves.